This was evidence to me that what I was doing was working. My healing process was slow, but it was working. Once I realized this, I started to feel like right now I'm having excitement. I feel excitement because it was freaking working. This episode is the continuance of last week's episode, The Death of My Old Self, my autoimmune story. If you haven't listened to it yet, go check it out. It will help you understand the story that I'm about to tell you, the story of my healing journey. It'll make more sense to you and get a bigger picture of my autoimmune story if you listen to that first. So let's dive in and continue on with the story. At this point, my old self was falling away from me. I started taking baby steps into my new self. I call this part of my story my rebirth. After standing for 2 years and searching for answers to why I couldn't sit without pain, I was 34 years old and finally had been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ankylosing spondylitis. Having a diagnosis was validation of what I was feeling, but it didn't give me answers on how to heal. My mind and my body was still in turmoil. There was a lot going on inside my mind and my body, and I couldn't handle any stimulants from outside my self, my external world, because I would start feeling overwhelmed and triggered. What was going on inside me was just too much for me to handle, and anything more would push me over the edge. I was left with a choice to inject myself with a biologic to suppress my immune system or not to do it at all. Those are the choices I was faced with, and that I had to decide what I was going to do. So I had many questions going through my head. And if I didn't take the biologic, what other options were there for me to not go the route my rheumatologist suggested, which is that biologic? So what other options were there for me? This route that my rheumatologist suggested and told me it was the only option for me to take, this route was something my higher self was communicating to me through my body, telling me that this wasn't the answer. My higher self was communicating to me through the heaviness that I felt in my body and the racing thoughts of, there must be another way. I deserve more, and this is not how my life is supposed to be. I had this inner knowing inside me that said that this is not our path and we can't give up. I was paying attention to this knowing, this inner voice, but I still didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't give up, and I knew this wasn't our path, and I knew I deserved more. But I didn't know what to do, where to turn, where to start, because this was all new to me. And I was scared and didn't know if I was doing the right thing or if any of this would work. Like these ideas of, okay, I'm not taking what this educated man who specializes in my disease, well, somewhat specializes in my disease. They typically, a rheumatologist, with people with ankylosing spondylitis, doctors didn't really know where to place this. So the best bet was rheumatology. So the rheumatologists have taken over this disease. So if I didn't listen to this man, how do I know that what I'm thinking, this inner voice, this inner knowing in me, how do I know that I'm right? And is it even worth trying, or am I just wasting my time? And then is my body, am I creating damage in my body because I'm not addressing what's going on with my disease? But I still could not get rid of that feeling of, no, that's not the answer, and we're going to find another way. I just knew I was going to, I just didn't know how. Even though I was scared and doubted myself, I still felt like this was the right thing to do. All I knew was I just had to start somewhere, just somewhere. Because once I start somewhere, it helps me navigate what my next step is. And I knew I couldn't stay stuck in this infancy stage forever. I could not live like this anymore, and I had to do something. I was ready to make changes and start living my life again, and not letting this disease dictate what I did with my life. I wasn't really finding any promising information in my research. So I started talking to people I know, asking them their opinion, and most of them agreed with me that maybe I should try to find other answers before proceeding with this biologic that was pretty much scared the crap out of me and didn't seem like the answer. It just seemed like a band-aid, and that's not what I wanted. But yeah, I still wasn't finding answers. And I was starting to feel like, is healing even possible? Because all the research shows that it isn't. At least the research that I was finding wasn't stating that. It just spoke about what was going to happen to the body, which was terrifying. And it recommended or listed information of different kind of drugs that you can take for this disease. But I didn't see any information about if healing was even possible. But I had to keep digging, and I did. I was having a hard time finding anything, but I was willing to not make changes at all if I had to, and that included not taking the medication. I just felt like it wasn't my answer. I don't know why I keep going back to that, but I really don't know why this medication was stopping me. I mean, I do know why, I suppose, because it wasn't the answer that I was looking for, and I'm pretty stubborn, and I have learned to listen to my higher self, that intuition, that inner voice. I've learned to listen to it and trust it throughout my life because it has guided me to beautiful places. So I suppose that's why I just didn't want to take that medicine, that biologic. So, after talking to many different people and getting, they helped me validate my feelings. But of course, they didn't have any answers for me because they had no idea what I was going through. So I decided to reach out to my childhood friend, who is a nurse practitioner. She had just transitioned from conventional medicine to integrative medicine. So at first, she suggested that I did take the biologic just to make my life more comfortable, so that I didn't have to suffer and feel this, being in pain all the time, and just to try to slow things down until I figure out what was going on. So that was her first recommendation, as my friend, not as my provider, my medical provider. But by sheer fate, and I know this is fate, and I know this happened for a reason. Before I decided to make that decision to go ahead and take the biologic route. A documentary called The Thyroid Secret by Dr. Isabella Wentz fell into my friend's lap. She told me about this documentary, so it's new to her too. So it was just about to start. And so she told me about it, and we both watched it. And this documentary was, I believe, it's like an hour or two for like 5 days straight or something like that. So we took that 5 days and we watched it. She lives in a different state than I do, so we didn't watch it together, but we did watch it together, just not physically together. And we learned so much about tools and alternative medicine, such as functional medicine, integrative medicine, and holistic medicine, and how they address autoimmune diseases from the root cause naturally. It's like a natural approach. And it opened my eyes to possibilities of true healing and started me on my healing path. I finally found a stepping stone in the right direction. I was finally finding what I was looking for. You know, with this documentary, I started feeling hope again because I had lost hope. And when you lose hope, that feeling does not feel good at all. And this documentary validated my thoughts. I knew there was something better out there. I knew there was more. And it came to me, and my hope started coming back. And that was so exciting and such a wonderful feeling. And like I said, I was starting to see the possibilities. Now, mind you, I still didn't know exactly what to do, but now I had a direction to guide me on my path. This documentary was a special gift to me. I had put out to the universe what I wanted, and it gave it to me. My nurse practitioner friend was now suggesting, as my friend again, not as my healthcare provider, to hold off on taking this biologic and to try healing my gut through diet first. And I know that she was interested to see the results as well. So I was kind of like a science experiment to see how everything pans out. So now that I had a new direction to go, I started doing more research. But this time I wasn't researching about autoimmune disease. I was researching on how to heal. So that's very important. That's a very important tip, because what you focus your attention on, that's the information you're going to find. So when I was focusing my research, my attention on autoimmune diseases, I was receiving information about autoimmune diseases, but I shifted my focus on researching on how to heal. And so then I started receiving information about different ways that I can approach my healing. From the documentary, I now had valuable, trusted resources I could look for guidance. So she had on this documentary different doctors and different people who have actually started their healing journey. So I had these people to look to. They had their own websites, they had information, they had books that they have written about. And so now I had these trusted resources as guidance. So I was able to find more resources, and it was easier to find this information. It was a lot easier to research. I wasn't blindly finding all this information and not knowing if this is something that is valuable to me. So that was a huge, huge help in the process, in my research process. So I spent months and months learning how to start living a healthy lifestyle and the holistic approach to how the body works. And it was actually fascinating. I never thought that I would ever be interested in how the body works. It just wasn't in my it wasn't on my radar. But now it was, and I was fascinated on learning how the body works. And if I know how the body works and why my immune system was attacking myself, I'm able to better understand how to support my body to start my healing process. So from there, I learned of a diet that is specific to helping the healing process of autoimmune diseases. As I started making these healthy lifestyle changes, it was as if I were a baby again. This new life was new to me. I had to learn how to live and eat all over again. I had to learn how to source healthy foods by learning where to find them, which foods I should buy, and which food items I should stay away from. I also had to learn how to cook all over again and how to manage my time to prepare these meals. Needless to say, the research and learning process took a while before I jumped into this new therapeutic diet. I felt like I needed to get a little handle on it. I didn't want to just jump into this diet blindly. And I didn't want to waste my time making mistakes and feeling like I had to start all over again, which in hindsight really isn't an issue because that's the best way that you learn. But at that time, perfectionism ruled my life and I had to do it perfect. So I did months and months of research. And then I finally built up the confidence to be like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Let's go. So as I was doing that, I was also researching functional medicine doctors in my area and called multiple practices to find a doctor that I thought would best fit my needs. Because I was able to find quite a few, but you want to find a doctor that specializes in the area that you're looking at or that you need to address. And then also if that doctor is a good fit for you. So I did that. And the doctor that I wanted to work with most was in high demand. And it took 3 months to get in to see her. I didn't want to wait 3 months, just sit around and not have any help. So I did schedule my appointment with her. And then I looked for another functional doctor who can support me until then. So in March of 2017, at the age of 35, I started changing my lifestyle through diet. This is something I'm still doing today, and I believe I will continue to do for the rest of my life. 2 weeks after I started my diet, I invested in my first functional medicine doctor. She helped me uncover things about myself I hadn't realized affected my health. I mean, it was like eye-opening. I'm like, whoa, I didn't even think of that. 3 months later, I started working with the original functional medicine doctor I had reached out to. She was able to dig even deeper with me through testing to find more information no other doctor had ever found or even attempted to look for. Through the results of these tests, I was able to make more lifestyle changes and took supplements specific to my needs. That's key right there. You just don't want to just blindly take supplements hoping that something's going to work. You're wasting your time and your money. So you want to know exactly what's going on inside the body to find out what your deficiencies are so that you can support those deficiencies and take the appropriate supplements that you need. So like I mentioned earlier, I was becoming my own science experiment, finding out what worked for me and what didn't by listening to my body through periodic testing. I continued to do this for the next year and started to see some improvements. I saw my rheumatologist once a year for the next 2 to 3 years to make sure that there wasn't any fusing in my spine. And there wasn't. There was no fusing in my spine. Nothing had changed in that regard. This was evidence to me that what I was doing was working. My healing process was slow, but it was working. Once I realized this, I started to feel like right now I'm having excitement. I feel excitement because it was freaking working. But at the same time, I started to feel anger and frustration and resentment towards my conventional doctors. None of them suggested this route to me. It made me wonder how many other people with autoimmune diseases were being misled and not given this option. This option that I had to dig and research to find. It was like it's like a hidden little treasure that for people not to see. And that bothered me. But at the same time, this had me realize the purpose of my autoimmune disease. My disease wasn't a curse or a punishment. It was a wake up call to me to tell me I was living on the wrong path and I needed to pivot to another path that led to happiness, to the better part of me, and to my purpose. That was a blessing when I finally realized that. And if you think about it, that's with everything in life. Things that feel like are an obstacle or is something like bad, something good always comes from it. There's a reason why that happens because it's getting your attention. And boy, it got my attention. Woo, that was a hard lesson to learn. But I learned it and I saw the message. So I started telling any and everyone who would listen what I've learned and what I was doing. I was so excited and I wanted to help as many people as I could. But my message wasn't getting through to people. They didn't hear what I was saying, or they either didn't get what I was saying or weren't ready to hear it. Or maybe I was just talking to the wrong people. But I knew that this was my path and I was meant to get this message out. But once again, I didn't know how. I just knew I needed to do it. I knew I belonged in this healing community and I needed to bring people along with me because I had to put it out there. I can't sit by and have this beautiful secret and not share it with others. It's not fair. It's not mine to keep to myself. It is mine to share with others. So everybody else benefits as well. So because I put it out there to the universe, I eventually saw a message about a functional medicine certified health coach program. And I thought to myself, this is it. This is where I belong. This is what I've been looking for. So I enrolled in the year-long program and learned so much. I graduated in September of 2019, started coaching people pro bono to practice my skills and to earn coaching hours to even be considered to sit for the National Board Certification Tests to become a National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. I took the next 5 months after graduation to study for the certification exam. In February 2020, I sat for the exam and I passed it. I was so proud of myself. And to be honest, I was surprised because in the past, I wasn't a great exam taker, especially if it was a long exam. And it was a 4-hour long exam, but I did it despite the brain fog, fatigue, and the energy that it took to support my healing process. I was able to pass this 4-hour long exam. and I was proud of myself. And I was also able to sit for 4 hours without sacral pain. I was concerned about that because I, I was able to start sitting more and more without pain throughout this journey that I was on. So at this time in February 2020, I was 3 years into this journey. And I was a little concerned that would my sacral pain come back if I was sitting for 4 hours straight. And I had no pain. That was another realization, like what I am doing is working. I had no pain. Each day I was supporting my health, I was able to sit longer and longer without pain. I mean, can you believe it? Seriously, if I didn't know this for myself with this experiment that I was doing with myself, I probably wouldn't have believed it if I didn't follow my heart. Healing my gut through lifestyle changes was working. I was actually assisting my body in the healing process. That was an empowering feeling, to say the least. I mean, when you know that you can do something, that is such empowerment right there. And it makes you wonder, what else can I do? If I could do this, I could probably do anything. So at the end of 2017, sorry, I'm backtracking here. I'm trying to keep this healing journey, this story, in line the best I can without causing confusion. So please bear with me, but I promise you it'll make sense. So back in 2017, I started feeling pain after my workouts. I know the difference between sore and pain. And this was pain. This pain was my body's way of communicating to me to be more gentle with myself and not push myself. This was a hard lesson for me to face. I had been taught to ignore my body and push myself in order to succeed and get things done. So I was going against my conditioning and my belief system to push harder and ignore my body. And so that was a hard lesson. And I'm sure many of you listening understand what I'm talking about. I know I'm not alone in this. I feel like this has become our culture. So basically, I was going against our culture when I decided that I needed to start listening to myself and stop pushing myself too hard. There's a difference between pushing yourself for good, but there is a such thing as overdoing it. And that's what I had to learn. I had to find that balance. It's all about balance. But yet I was still upset that I could no longer work out as hard as I did. I viewed it as, here's another way that my autoimmune disease is taking control over my body and my life. But years later, I would understand and realize that this was a learning experience and practice for me to start listening to my body, give myself what I needed, and be more gentle with myself. Once I figured out the best exercise route that best fit me, I didn't experience pain anymore. I didn't experience pain after my workouts because I really didn't experience it during my workouts because I think I would have listened a little bit more. It was mainly afterwards. The recovery period is when I was feeling it. But now I wasn't feeling that anymore. So now that I had that I don't want to say under control, but now that I figured that out, my energy levels started to tank. I couldn't last through my normal workouts without feeling depleted. Like I couldn't really finish my workouts because I was just so tired. So that was another like, what is going on here? I thought I was doing good. Why is this happening now? I'm eating better and I'm trying to make changes. What's going on now? But I realized that I had to make more adjustments. The fatigue I was experiencing during my workouts now crept into my daily life. I had to take long naps in the afternoons just to make it through the day. It didn't matter if I worked out or not, I still had to take a nap. My hormone test proved this by showing my doctors and I that my cortisol levels would crash in the afternoons. I dealt with this extreme fatigue for 3 years. I came across a wellness way doctor towards the end of 2018. I've never heard of this division of medicine before, so I had to learn, like investigate what it was. And so basically, the Wellness Way is a group of doctors from all over the United States and now in certain parts of Europe who are they're similar to functional medicine, but in my opinion, they have a better understanding of how the body works. Their approach made more sense to me, so I changed doctors again. And I started working with him to find more of the missing pieces to my health. And I still continue to work with him today. Finding doctors is like buying a pair of shoes. You go into the shoe store, you try them on, and you see how they fit. If they're not comfortable and they do not suit the purpose of your purchase, you're just going to put them back and find another one. And that's the same for a doctor. Your doctor is there to support you and guide you and to work with you. They're not your dictator. They're your partner. And if you don't feel like you have a partner and you don't feel like you have a doctor who is willing to dig deep and find out what's going on with you, because mind you, these doctors don't just spend 15 minutes with you. They spend an hour to 2 hours with you. And then as time goes on, it could be 30 minutes as well. But it takes time to figure this out. They're being a detective with you to try to figure out what's going on with your body, because your body is different than the next person. And so it's not a one size fits all. So the doctors are not going to have the exact protocol for you because you don't fit into just one protocol. So each doctor that I went to got me further and further along my healing journey. Each one held a purpose, and I knew when it was time to shift and pivot to the next one so that I could start digging deeper and deeper, peeling back that each layer of who I am. My adrenal functions weren't improving. So in the summer of 2020, my Wellness Way doctor suggested I take an autoimmune test to see if I had Addison's disease. This autoimmune disease affects the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands produces cortisol and other stress hormones, hence my fatigue, because it showed, like I spoke about before, that my hormone tests showed that my adrenals were tanking in the afternoon. They were so low. So that's why we were focusing on the adrenal glands. But I ended up testing negative for Addison's disease. But to my surprise, I was positive for celiac disease. So now I had 2 autoimmune diseases. Mind you, I was diagnosed with celiac disease doesn't mean I just developed it. And I know I had it for years previous to this diagnosis, but I just didn't. I thought, well, maybe it was something else. So it shows that I have two autoimmune diseases. And I'm not surprised because they say once you have one autoimmune disease, you're more likely to develop more if you don't address it, if it is left alone. And if, and that includes that band-aid effect of medication, because you're not addressing the autoimmune disease, you're just masking the symptoms. So I have celiac disease, but I was already gluten-free since 2017. So luckily I didn't have to make any other adjustments to my diet. And everything that I was doing to support my ankylosing spondylitis was the same thing that I would have to do for my celiac disease. It's just letting me know some more information about myself. So understanding what the adrenal gland does, like I said, it produces the stress hormones. It helped me realize that I needed to focus more on reducing my stress. Because if I'm under a large amount of stress, my adrenal gland is going to keep producing these stress hormones. But I was under so much stress from living in survival mode that my adrenals could not keep up. And it was showing up in my life. It was showing up with this extreme fatigue. I started approaching my stress management by letting go of my perfectionism. This is not an easy thing to do when it has been conditioned in me since I was a child. I was conditioned that I had to be perfect. And so I had to be okay with not being perfect and realize that mistakes and imperfections are where growth and magic happens. I also took supplements and herbs based on my labs to help support my stress as well. Outside my doctor visits, I was focusing my attention on healing and using myself as a science experiment to see what worked for me and what didn't. And I started to notice my clean, nutrient-dense diet wasn't improving my health as quickly as it had in the first 2 years. I mean, it was still helping me. It was keeping me stable, but it wasn't progressing as quickly as I would like. And I knew I had to start focusing my attention on other areas of my life that I had ignored. When it comes to health, it is never one thing that is the problem. We are complex creatures where every area of our lives affect our health. This means we have to be mindful of where we put our attention to decide which areas need more focus. Then slowly move on to the next area. So basically, you're going to focus your attention where your body's communicating to you the most. And then once you get a handle on that, you're going to slowly move on to the next. You don't want to do it all at once because it's going to be too overwhelming and create more stress, and you're just going to give up. So it's a slow process. It's like a baby learning how to walk. So as I was doing this, I was feeling more confident in my ability to sustain my diet and start focusing on the next area of my life that I needed to focus my attention on the most. And this is an area that I didn't really focus on at all. And at the beginning of my healing journey, I learned about the impact spirituality has on a person's health. And when I learned that, I knew I had to eventually address it, but I didn't know much about spirituality. So I kind of like pushed that to the side and focused on what I could control and what I knew more about. And we all know about food, right? We know we have to eat every day. So um, so I focused on that instead. But now it was calling to me more and more. I couldn't ignore this area of my life that I really needed to start focusing on, because a disconnect to our higher power and our higher self creates stress and the feeling of being unsafe in this world that triggers our sympathetic nervous system, sending us into survival mode, that fight and flight state where we cannot properly rest and digest to heal. Growing up, I had been exposed to very little spirituality, and religion was pretty much absent. So I didn't learn how to build a connection between myself and my higher power. I grew up thinking I was the only one in this world who could save me. No one was looking out for me. I had to protect myself. And that catapulted me into survival mode as a child. And as an adult, my defense system was on 24/7. Even now, I can sense it in my sleep. I'm a light sleeper because of it, and my muscles are always tense. I'm not I'm not able to fully relax because of it. And I never understood why in the past, because I even as a child, I did not know how to relax. People would tell me, "You need to relax. You're so uptight." And I thought to myself, "But I don't know how to relax." And now I understand why, because I couldn't relax because my nervous system was triggered into that fight or flight. I was always looking for danger. So, to improve my relationship with my spiritual being, I started following spiritual leaders and meditators and reading their books. I slowly started to build up my confidence in creating my own spiritual practice. I started experimenting with prayer for the first time to see what worked best for me. When I started this prayer practice, I was like, "Am I doing the right thing? Is this how you pray? Like, how the heck do you pray? I don't know." And I felt silly because I felt like I was going against my own belief system that something bigger than ourselves did not exist. The more I practiced, the more I started to experience. Ugh, let me slow down here. The more I practiced, the more I started experiencing small miracles and the presence of something bigger than me. I started sensing that, and I could not ignore that. So I was focusing my attention on that and realizing, oh, this prayer thing, this connection thing, building this strong relationship, a loving relationship, this bond to something higher than myself. It's there's something to it. It's working. And one day in the shower in 2021, about a year ago, I heard my voice in my head say to myself, "You are safe. You are safe." I unexpectedly started to cry and I felt a shift in my body and my muscles started to relax slightly. I did not realize that I needed to hear this message. And my body reacted to it and allowed myself to slightly relax and, crank down that level of searching for danger that was lessened. And I held on to that. That's when I realized how much I didn't feel safe in this world and how that played a role in my life and where that feeling of being unsafe came from. And I started addressing that and dissecting that and figuring that out. This spirituality thing was really powerful for me, and it helped me realize that I was not alone, and I am surrounded by love and protection. Because of this feeling of safety through my spiritual connection, my health has improved more. And I'm still building that strong connection every single day. I do not go without a day without talking and showing gratitude towards my higher power. And it shows that spirituality is important when it comes to healing. So I had more shifts in my healing, more positive healings. And I'm still at the infancy stage of this. So I'm just excited to see how much more my health is going to improve, the stronger my connection is. And that's has to do with trust. I didn't trust that that was true. And sometimes that doubtfulness creeps in, and I have to address that doubt and reassure myself that no, what we're doing is right and that we can trust. Because I learned that I couldn't trust anybody, including a higher power. So that's something that's been ingrained in me, something that I'm working on to start breaking away the walls of mistrust. And once that's broken, I know I'm going to get a flood of healing. So I'm working on that every day. Throughout my healing journey, I started focusing some of my attention on reversing the negative thoughts that I was thinking and saying to myself. Because the mind and the body, they're not separate. They're all connected. We are one with our mind, our body, and our spirit. And if you understand that our thoughts become our reality, when you are thinking negative thoughts, your reality, including your body, starts to react to it and shifts to these negative thoughts. So take, for example, you start telling yourself a story of a conflict with someone that you're creating a scenario in your head of a conflict with someone that hasn't even happened and may not even happen, but you're thinking of a scenario in your head to prepare yourself just in case it does happen. When so-and-so does this to me, this is what I'm going to say to them. This is what I'm going to do. And you're creating this unnecessary stress in the body. And if you stop to notice when you are thinking these thoughts, your heart rate starts to increase and that stress starts to enter your body. And now you're all stressed out and you're on edge and your day's ruined. And when someone says something to you, you're triggered and you're lashed out because of this phantom story that you created in your mind. So now your nervous system has switched to that fight or flight state, and your body cannot rest and digest it and repair itself. And that's why you are not so kind throughout the day, because you have to protect yourself because of the scenario in your head. So I've started working on that and being aware of those thoughts. And when I spoke about my functional doctors, the very first functional doctor that I went to, she told me that one negative interaction affects our immune system for 24 hours. Just one negative interaction affects our immune system for 24 hours. Imagine what your immune system is going through and how it is reacting when you start saying mean things to yourself and thinking these negative thoughts. I mean, imagine how many times do you think these thoughts throughout the day? And how many times do you say negative things about yourself throughout the day? I mean, knowing that information I just shared with you, that only one interaction affects your immune system for 24 hours. Imagine when there's multiple in one day, every single day. That is really impactful information for you to take. And hopefully you would take that and start being mindful of your thoughts. That's something I had to do. And I had to reframe my negative thoughts into positive thoughts. So the first thing to do is recognize your thoughts and then address them. Where are these negative thoughts coming from? And then reframing those thoughts. Now, mind you, I am nowhere near perfect at doing this. This is a daily practice, because how many years have we thought this way and practice our thinking and what we say to us? I mean, how many years? So it's not going to go away overnight. It's a daily practice. And it's a daily practice that is worth doing. And when I can't seem to shake off a negative thought, it's just, I can't get rid of it. It just keeps coming back. That's when I ask my higher power to take the thoughts from me. And I say, please take these thoughts from me. I choose to think of love instead. And that really seems to help shift my focus on what I want to really focus on. So like I said, awareness is the first step in this process. If you aren't aware of your thoughts, you cannot correct them. So with everything that I'm doing, my fatigue has gotten so much better in the past 2 years. And I stopped needing a nap every day. I still take naps here and there. I listen to my body. There are days that I'm more tired than others, and that's completely normal, whether or not you have a disease. It's completely normal. And to be honest, everyone should be taking a nap. In fact, we probably should be taking a nap every day. We obviously don't need to be taking the long naps that I had to take, but like short 20-minute naps have shown, research has shown that it is very beneficial. And in fact, people, communities of people who are living healthy lives and living well past 100 years old, these group of people, these communities are called the Blue Zone, and they take naps every day. They shut down their businesses in the middle of the day to take naps or relax or spend time socializing with people. And it's about listening to your body and giving yourself what you need. And if you need a nap, find a way to get that nap. I know that's hard, easier said than done, especially with the way that society is set up. If our society is not set up to support our health, it's actually counterproductive towards optimal health. So that is something that needs to be addressed within the community and within ourselves. Eating a nutrient-dense whole food diet, working with my mindset, letting go of control, and building a spiritual connection were all game changers in my health. Let me slow down again. Having a support system was super helpful as well. Throughout my healing journey, my husband was by my side supporting me all the way. He may not have understood everything that I was doing, but he realized that the things that I am doing are things that I need to do in order to get better. And I thank him and I acknowledge him for the gift of support that he has given me. My journey would have been a lot harder if it wasn't for his support. I don't think the poor guy knew what he was getting into when he signed up for when he fell in love with me. And I have taken him on quite an adventure the past 22 years, but he's still here. He must enjoy the adventure. I'm sure he didn't enjoy all of it. I know I sure not. Didn't, but those times were messages to me to help guide me on my way. And right now, as I speak to you, I cannot tell you that I'm completely healed because I'm not. I still have a lot more exploring and learning to do. But what I can tell you is I no longer have sacral pain when I sit. I don't have fusing in my spine. My energy has greatly improved. I don't experience digestive issues. My joints hurt less. I handle stress better. I experience less overwhelm and anxiety. I feel so much better now that I am 40 years old than I did when I was in my 20s. I'm healthier and I'm stepping into the better version of myself every single day. I am more enjoyable to be around and I am loving myself more each day. And I'm doing this all without medication or biologics. I am doing it. I am doing it myself and finding different ways to do that. And that really builds confidence in yourself. That self-efficacy is strong. It's all about taking baby steps and making time for self-care and being gentle on yourself. That's so important. You have to be gentle on yourself, mentally and physically. Be gentle on yourself. Slow down. Relax more often. Get enough quality sleep. Develop a healthy sleep cycle. Build healthy relationships and support systems. Reduce your stress. Create a strong connection to your higher power and to yourself. Eat a nutrient-dense whole food diet. Get movement, stretching, and exercise into your daily life. And find a community of people doing the things you want to do. So you are inspired, guided, and you uplift each other to do positive things. Throughout the season of this podcast, my guests and I will provide more information on these areas to give you motivation and ideas to move towards your health. The purpose of my story that I just shared with you isn't to tell you what to do or what you should do, because what works for me doesn't mean it will work for you or is your path that you should take. Just take what I've shared with you and do your research. Find what works for you, find a mentor and a practitioner who will partner with you to find your path. Your doctor isn't your dictator. They are your partner who is willing to take time with you, to dig deep with you to find your root cause. The key is not giving up on yourself. Look to people who are healing their bodies and model after them and learn from them. Find doctors who will investigate your body with you and see what's going on. And just start somewhere. Just start somewhere. Because you're worth it. You're worth this, and you will get there. Don't give up on yourself. Thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope my message has touched you and has shifted something inside of you to know that you can do this and it is possible. That is my greatest hope for you. That is why I have started this podcast. That is why I am sharing my journey and my knowledge and bringing on other people to share their knowledge so that you can become healthier and the better version of yourself. Bye.